Mission Outreach and Justice is happy to have with us today Cynthia Rios, Executive Director of Haven Home. And she will tell you more about Haven Home and what they're doing and some changes in their operation. And I don't have much more to say, so.
Thank you. Let's see, so good morning, everyone.
Good morning.
So I have to warn you, sometimes when I get a microphone in my hand, I don't want to stop talking. So just cut me off whenever I've said enough or too much. So thank you, everyone, for having me here. I also have to acknowledge my husband, Tony, who's here, and has been extremely supportive man of God in this process, because I could not have done it without, could not continue to do it without his support. So we had a little bit of a technology challenge, as you know, often happens, and so I've learned often to just kind of go from my own notes if need be. So I don't have any type of presentation. The office has it if there's anything that you want to look at, but I did, and my husband's passing around some brochures. These are the newest brochures, the change that I'm going to describe to you shortly. So it talks about us being a family maternity home, and again, I'll tell you how we got from where we started to where we will be starting next year. So, so thank you for all the support from the congregation and individuals who have helped with donations and flooring and just helping us carry out this mission that God really gave us in November 2017. We started as a family overflow shelter, which essentially meant that we were like a waiting room for shelter. All the shelters in Cuyahoga County are full now, they were then, but we were created to exist as a place for a family to wait until a bed opened up at what they call the permanent shelters. And so a family would come to us, they would stay there for sometimes a couple days, sometimes a couple weeks, now it's up to a couple months. And then when a bed opened up, like at Family Promise or the Westside Catholic, if you've heard of any of them, the family would move there. So it was a great opportunity to keep families off the street, but at the same time, it was not very transformational from our standpoint. It was temporary, it was transactional, and we really always wanted to have a greater impact on the women and children that we served. So over the years, we've probably served about 250 families a year, and to try to figure out how many kids they had. Went from one child to sometimes 4 or 5 children. If you've ever been in our facility, we have the capacity to hold 16 families, which is up to about 50 individuals, and that cap is really set by the city based on the size of the rooms. So anyway, so we've been doing that since November 2017. But earlier this year, God spoke to me about the pregnant women, the women with very young children, with newborns. What kind of care were they really getting to help this second generation that's coming along when things are so difficult now? And so, I sort of resisted that change for a while, like we do when God speaks to us about doing something totally different when we're kind of coasting along nicely. And eventually I spoke to our pastor, Matthew and I are both members of Elizabeth Baptist Church, with Pastor Richard Gibson, and he is also the board chair. And I spoke to him about this, and I said, God is really kind of moving me toward adjusting or somehow being able to serve pregnant and parenting women without making them move when another bed opens up, like more permanent help for them, more long-term sustainable solutions. And he was all in, which was great, because it's always nice to have the support of the other leadership around you. And so since about probably March or April, we've been working on transitioning the Haven Home to what we've been calling a family maternity home. And what that means is that at the end of this year, we will not be the family overflow. Like, we will not be part of Cuyahoga County's continuum of care. We'll be totally independent on our own. And so we won't take referrals, and we can take referrals from them, but that won't be the point of entry. We can have, if you know a pregnant woman who is in need of housing, you can call us, she can do an intake, and we'll make that decision. We'll have programs that'll really be designed to help mother and children kind of get out of poverty. Like, so much of this growing poverty in this area is affecting everything. It's affecting the children's education, their nutrition, their economic status moving forward. And so we wanted to be able to do some long-term solutions. So just bear with me while because I'll get off track here. And one of the key things about this new model is that we want to involve dads. And I see we have a high number of men in this group, which is kind of great because usually there's just one man I'm talking to with this. But if you think about a lot of the social service agencies, the first thing they do is dad goes here, mom goes here, and if dad gets involved either financially or some other, now they lose their support. And so what we want to do is help dads stay involved. Our programs will have an opportunity for dad to attend. If we have a parenting class, which we will, dad can attend the parenting class. We have conflict resolution, dad can attend the conflict resolution as well. Because whether mom and dad are together, they're still parents. And so we want the children to see parents together, we want the parents to learn how to work together. So what this new model will look like essentially is we can accept a pregnant or a parenting mother with a child under age 5, and she can stay with us for 6 to 12 months after she either comes in or the baby is born, so that'll vary. And it also will be based on her need. So if a mom comes to us and she's had a lot of trauma, a lot of devastation in her life, 12 months might not be enough. Or if she just ran into a little blip in her life, maybe 6 months is all she needs to kind of get restabilized. So while she's there, and we already have some of this as parenting classes, we have art therapy, we have social emotional learning, we have groups that come in and talk about financial literacy, come in and help with resumes. We also have an excellent relationship with the Cleveland Clinic. And so for the past probably 12 to 18 months, they've been coming in twice a month and doing health screenings. And this has really been a benefit to the women and children because, when you're in crisis mode, you're not thinking about a doctor appointment. When you're in survival, you're trying to think about how am I going to get housing, how am I going to get a job. And if you got a headache every day, you're thinking, oh, it's just stress. But we've had situations when the students or the interns have come in and they have identified a mother with very high blood pressure. And in fact, at one time, they actually sent her to the emergency room. It was so high. But mom wasn't even thinking about that. She's just thinking, I got a headache because I'm tired, I'm not comfortable. And so they've been able to address some of those things. So in this new partnership, what they're going to do is we are going to be able to refer every family that comes in who does not have a primary care physician to the Cleveland Clinic. Now, they don't have to go to the Cleveland Clinic, just let me be clear about that. If they have, if they're working with UH or another health system, they can do that. But the Cleveland Clinic, they will assign a community health worker to her immediately. They will help her get transportation, they will help her with case management, they'll help with pre- and postnatal care, they'll help with the children, if there's other children in the family. They just have a myriad of services at one of their locations, the Langston Hughes Center, which is probably 10 minutes from our facility. But they'll provide all the transportation for that. So that access to health care can make a significant difference in the lives of the children and moms, of course. We have a very high infant mortality rate in this area. Like in Cuyahoga County, it's about 13%. So 13 out of every 1,000 babies in Cuyahoga County don't see their first birthday. In a county that has the health care that we have, that is way too high. It's higher than the state, it's higher than other areas, and it just doesn't speak well to the access to that great health care that we have here. And so that relationship, and I'll add to that they are supporting us financially to a certain degree, so it's not just the health care. My phone keeps going out of the thing here. So I mentioned all the programs that we're going to have. We also have groups that already come in and do Bible studies, and they're going to continue to do that. So we probably have 2 or 3 different Bible study groups that come in on alternating Friday evenings. And there's no requirement to attend that, but we model the service. We model Matthew 25 in loving others and meeting them where they are. And so they should see that in us. They should see that in the people that support us. And it actually is very well attended. I mentioned we'll have health screenings. We'll also have some wellness workshops. A key part of this is healthy eating. And although you might not be able to tell by looking at me, but I'm kind of on that. But we want to teach mom how to purchase and prepare healthy meals. We're going to do some modifications to the building. We're going to expand the kitchen, waving Cindy back there. We got some the other Cindy would talk about expanding our kitchen, because we want Mom to have that empowerment of creating her own meals. You buy your own food, you cook your own food, you clean up after yourself, and you carry those habits through. So important. We talked about making your bed in the morning. I heard your pastor talk about that. Those house rules, we'll have similar house rules. You make your bed, you prepare your meals, you clean up behind yourself, because that's what people need. They need structure. You know, they need to feel, the kids need that structure in the morning. They need a healthy meal before they go to school, not a bag of potato chips or a popsicle or something like that, and that takes planning. And so that's part of what we're going to do. We're also going to introduce a work from home model, and that'll be later next year, but we have a pretty big classroom area in the basement, and we're going to turn that into a remote work site. We have about 25 different employers that we've identified as those who hire remote workers. And so we're going to put about 5 or 6 cubicles down there, and Mom can go down and she'll get her own job. We're not going to be a part of, we're not going to be an employment agency, and we're not taking any revenue from this. This is so Mom can go to work, because we all need income. And so we'll provide childcare, so the children will be taken care of. Maybe Mom will work 4 hours, 6 hours, 8 hours a day, depending on, the child. If it's a baby, she's not going to be wanting to work 8 hours, and we don't want her working 8 hours with an infant. But maybe she can do 4 hours a day while the babies are still taking those nice naps, and we'll help with that. Then she has her own income, because with her own income, she can rent her own apartment now, and eventually home ownership. So we're also trying to take her out of the system, trying to take her away from the Section 8, take her away from the voucher system that limits really where you can live. And, it's a lot of, I hate to say this, but there's a lot of substandard housing that these families end up in, and we want to just change the whole trajectory of their lives. And that starts also with, of course, introducing them to Jesus. And I am ending with that rather than starting with that, because I don't want you to think that that's not a big part of what we do. We've always been a faith-based organization. And for those of you who've been in our building, you've seen that the signs and hopefully that our behavior, and we role model that as well. And we're hoping that Mom will join with us and the children will join with us. So what are our needs? Mark and I have talked extensively about some of the needs for the shelter. We always need diapers and wipes, and I know you've got a baby shower that you're coordinating here, and thank you for that. We're going to need food. We're going to need prepared meals until we get the kitchen redone, which probably would be the 3rd quarter of next year if we get the funding that we're hoping to get from the state of Ohio. But in the meantime, we need prepared meals. We'll have about 8 to 10 mothers. I'll just say probably 15 to 20 people altogether. But if you like to bake, if you like to cook, you like casseroles, you like things that you want to just pick a day out of the month and you're going to bring in, even if it's just cookies, if you're going to do a birthday party or something, there's opportunities for that. We're also going to need paper products, although our goal is they're going to do their own dishes. We're not going to use paper plates and paper towels. Don't look at me, Tony, because he knows I use those at home. But it's different at work, right, everybody? But because of the cost of that, and when there's 20 people versus 2 people, that's a lot of paper plates. And again, when Mom gets her own house, paper plates and paper, and all those paper cups and things like that become really a huge waste. We also, sorry, I'm jumping ahead here, need laundry detergent. The pods are much better than the liquid because we have 2 sets of washers and dryers. They'll do their own laundry. And so giving somebody 2 pods for 2 loads is better than giving a whole bottle. And then towels and face cloths. We're going to go through a lot of those things. These are just like your basic household items. So I probably have forgotten some things that we've talked about, Martha, from time to time. So she's your go-to person, right? That we've talked about the needs. Now, let me tell you what some of our goals are for this program. That the women, of course, as I mentioned, will receive adequate health care. Because, as you know, if we're not feeling good, if we're not thinking well, if we're not able to move around, it makes a huge difference. And when it's a child, the children these days have a high rate of asthma, a high rate of autism. and they need more care. We also want to improve their education outcomes for the children. You know, if mom doesn't have her GED or anything like that, we're going to work on that. But at the same time, by the time that child gets to kindergarten, we want him or her prepared for kindergarten or preschool or whatever is the first entrance. We also want to reduce the emergency room visits. There are a lot of women and children in shelter right now that every time they have a stomach ache, they go to the emergency room because they don't know what to do. And so probably at least once a week, someone is calling for an ambulance for something that an urgent care center could have taken care of, but they don't have transportation to the urgent care center. And so instead, they'll call the ambulance. And that costs all of us and them. And then also, as I mentioned earlier, that the women will obtain employment that pays a living wage. And I emphasize that because we talk to them about employment, but we also talk to them about you don't have to work at rallies for $14, and maybe $16 now this is going up. But some of these work from home jobs pay $20, $25 an hour. And you need just some customer service, some good phone etiquette, and be feeling comfortable on the computer, which will help them with all of that in our digital learning classes, because we want mom to be able to raise the children at her home, to buy a car, to buy a home one day, to help the children get into college or technical school. And then I talked about, so volunteers, we always need volunteers serving meals. Even if you can't prep a meal, if you want to come in one day and help serve lunch or help serve breakfast, you can do that. Childcare, so who likes to rock babies? And we have, yes. don't we? I mean, lately we have 2 sets of twins right now, which is they're really adorable. I know, they're so cute. But when the little babies come in, when mom comes home from the hospital with that little tiny baby, she's going to need to be able to rest a little bit. So somebody has to hold that baby for her for a while, just so even she can take a shower. And right now, that situation, like she always has to have the child with her. That's hard. That's hard to do that. Holiday activities, we get really busy at Christmas time, but there's other holidays too. Let's have a 4th of July picnic, let's have a Memorial Day activity. There's just lots of things that we can do on the holidays for them. And then my favorite is light maintenance. I call it light maintenance. But it could be the flooring. it could be, because I know this group has helped with the flooring a little bit. It could be painting. There's a number of things that when we're in a building that was built in 1955, the same year I was born. So I know that the plumbing and the electrical don't always work so well. The paint peels, all those kind of things. We can always use help with that. And then that's it. Any questions?
You say what the building used to be. A lot of people don't know that.
Yeah, thank you for asking that. So, the Haven Home is located on the campus of Elizabeth Baptist Church, and it used to be a convent. So Elizabeth Baptist Church was St. Hyacinth Catholic Church at one time, and back probably about 15 years ago, it was probably, I don't even remember because I wasn't part of the church then, they bought that when the diocese was selling off. So it's an old convent, so of course the rooms were just meant for single women. We just had some work done in the bathrooms to accommodate boys, and so that kind of thing, and then it's just an older building. Yeah. But thank you for asking that. Yes. Any other questions? Yes.
Will there be availability for mothers that may be disabled?
So that's a great question. So we are in the process of applying to the state of Ohio for some capital funding. And one of the things that we are in dire need of is being handicap accessible. The way, again, it's a 1955 building, there's no elevator, so there would definitely be some accommodations that would have to be made, but that's part of what we're talking to them about. Because there's a need for that. There's very little place in the shelter system for a single mom or a single woman who has any disabilities. Yes. Yes, sir.
Are you dealing with domestic violence, domestic issues?
Yes. So we are not a domestic violence shelter, but I would say that probably 60 to 70% of the women that come in have had some experience with domestic violence, intimate partner violence, they call it now. Sometimes it's verbal abuse, sometimes it's financial abuse, sometimes it's physical abuse. But yes, there's a higher and higher rate of that. Yes. Okay, will you get here first?
Do you get your funding mainly by donations or besides grants?
Yeah, so we did get, we currently are getting some funding from the county because we're part of the continuum of care, but next year we will not. So our funding will come from individual donations from churches, civic groups, some grants, and I'm applying to the state of Ohio for a capital grant that will mostly take care of repairs and renovations that need to be done. They generally don't pay for operating expenses, but yes.
If a woman has a baby and marries the partner, could you tell us how her benefits go down? Because we punish people for doing something we all think is holy and wonderful, but is not a big advantage to the mom or the children.
Yeah, absolutely. And you make a good point there, because that's another one of those situations where we're encouraging marriage, but if a young mom is struggling, it actually hurts her financially sometimes. So yes, depending on the income of the husband, then it would affect her benefits. Like she would maybe not have medical. If he, I don't know what the threshold is. I think it's low. I think it might be around 20,000. That will affect all of her benefits. So what happens then is they don't get married. And so that commitment is not there. And then as soon as things start going a little bit rough, then they separate, because again, that commitment isn't there anymore. So although the dads can't stay with us because of the way the building is designed, we are working with the church, who has some housing that we would be able to move what we call intact families into. So they could stay together. But that's also why everybody has to have a living wage, because we don't want anybody to stay on the benefit system, but once they're able to get off of it, we want them to be able to do that and be financially stable. But that's a good question too. Yes, ma'am.
The relationship with the Cleveland Clinic. If a pregnant mother comes to you, does she deliver at the clinic then, or?
So that's her choice. We don't have a birthing center in the building, but if she does not have health care, we would connect her with the Cleveland Clinic. And part of our program is that she gets health care, because we can't let her neglect herself and the baby. So we would connect her with them, and we would just kind of stay on top of that. Are you making your appointments, through our case management system to ensure that she is getting the care that she needs? Because another part of this infant mortality issue is that the babies are under birth weight because of lack of prenatal care, and then they don't survive.
How many social workers on your staff?
So right now we have one. She's not functioning as a social worker, but next year she will be. So she wanted to get involved with us in a different manner. She actually is our church outreach person. I just hired her a couple months ago, but she's a licensed independent social worker with a supervisory designation, which means we could bring interns in as well. Yeah.
What is the age of the women you serve?
So right now, most of the women we serve are between 21 and 35. We've had 2 generations. We've had grandmother, mother, well, that'd be 3, grandmother, mother, and children. We've had that, and we've had sisters come in at the same time, both with children. So there's a family dynamic that's going on here that we really have to address. But for the most part, they're under 35. And from our standpoint, it would probably be 21 to 35 would be our target range. Yeah. Good questions. Yes?
I just wanted to say when you and I met about the Presbyterian outreach grant, and you were talking about this program, I was very pleased. You mentioned that the children would be getting would get immunizations, and that some of them, when they go to register for school, have had none. So another reason that their survival rate is.
It gets more important as you get older, but we got to start those habits now. And mom has to be comfortable taking the children to the doctor. Part of the fear of that is the social service system. So if they identify that maybe the children haven't been well taken care of, mom is afraid they'll take the children. So, there's so many fears and obstacles to getting the help that they need that we have to be ready to address all of those and be supportive.
Have you ever had a child taken?
Yes. Yeah. It's very heartbreaking.
Traumatic.
It is, for us too. I mean, definitely for mom, but for us, there's a heavy weight that comes over when social services comes and takes someone's children. Yeah. especially if we've had to make the call. We're mandatory reporters. So if we see abuse, we have to report it. Yeah, it's hard sometimes. Well, thank you. These have been great questions. So did you have a question?
Well, before we adjourn, can I add one thing? As Cindy mentioned, and was very quick, I want to make sure everyone understands. We, Lakewood Presbyterian Church, will be hosting a baby shower for Haven Home. That's scheduled for December 10th. That will be here at this time slot. So
Fun.
anyone who is interested in helping this outstanding organization, I hope you could come by and help us in that way. And in the interest of giving credit where credit is due, that was Martha Noy's idea. So I think
Kudos, kudos.
we should encourage that.
And it's co-ed families, right?
Oh yes, men are invited.
Kids too, right?
Oh yeah, bring your kids.
Actually, this is Mission Outreach and Justice. But Lakewood Presbyterian Church is involved with Matthew 25. It is the most dynamic thing for this church and for people to buy into the process. With this process, we hope to involve children, youth, men, women, because as you see, we're having a baby. We're having babies, and we need to have things on the shelf so that when they need it, Haven Home says, yes, we have it available. We can be a part of that. We're not the entire answer because they're turning to other people as well. But the dynamic here is that your passion, if this is your passion, you have a real opportunity to make a difference. Now, there are many other things that are involved with Matthew 25, and that already the church is tapping those concepts and ideas. And so you might not have your major interest here. You may have it with another part of the ministry that is beginning to grow and blossom here. So we are excited about this. It has wonderful possibilities, and it's not just for now. I imagine that a baby that has had good care, grows, brain development, that one of these days that child may say, because people care, I'm able to. And so it's a marvelous opportunity. And I trust this church. It's been a part of our ministry too, to help out. So thank you.
And we'll have more information about that regarding specifics for what can be gifted. So thank you so much. If there's anything else.
In next week's bulletin, we hope to start the process of giving people a list of possible things to contribute. And that can be, because, for example, they need car seats. They don't need a car seat for every child, but they need car seats. They need bassinets. They need packet plates. They need sheet, lots of things. But the idea being that, for example, if it's an expensive item, then call up 4, 5, 6, 10 of your friends and say, contribute with me to a fund. And as Cindy has indicated to me, there are many things that she can get. And on this sheet that we hand out, we want to say tips, money needed for certain things, because Cindy can get it at a better price than we can. And so a wonderful contribution would be, a money contribution. Cindy, should that be through the church or directly to Jim? Do you know how?
You can do it either way.
We have to work that detail out. We still have some details to work out, but it's things so that people in the community can also contribute.
Cynthia has a question.
But there will be a place to do it. If you can't be here for the baby shower, then there will be a collection center here. But if you can bring it to the baby shower, not wrapped, but just ready to see, we'll have tables where people can say, whoa, look what we've done. And that's just the beginning.
Can you use gently used items like car seats that are still in regulation, cribs that have the right size slats, all the stuff that has to have certain specs?
So cribs and car seats, we buy new.
You buy new.
We buy new, yes. And so my husband will laugh when I say this. So there's an auction site that I purchase a lot of items, and they're new, and I only buy the new ones, especially the car seats. But because of the regulations with the cribs, like most social service agencies will not take a used crib. If it's still in the box, if a car seat is, I mean, you bought it and it's not the right style or something, and you still have the instructions for it, we can take that. So we're able to make sure those things are hard to put together anymore. It's not as easy as just put the child in and then strap around.
And that's either, whatever it is that stay with the family?
Yes, yeah, you can stay with the family, yes. Yes. Somebody else? Oh, yes.
How about like books or things like that?
Yes. So we now have a little free library on the property, and then, especially with baby books, they don't last long because, they're going to slobber on them, and they're going to tear the pages, so we can always use those types, yeah. And if you want to come and read, you can do that too. Yes. Something else? But I saw another hand.
Just how do people learn about your services? I mean, a good question.
So we are active on social media. We have a website that's all in the brochure. We'll be much more active, especially socially, over the next few months. I'll be out talking more about it. We just did a big mailing to a lot of the churches who had expressed an interest like before COVID. We all know what happened with church attendance and that during COVID, and just trying to reach back out to them for meals and other things. So we're doing a big push to let people know, as far as the clients, how they find out. A lot of the social service agencies already know what we're about to do because they're calling, like Metro calls, Cleveland Clinic calls, like we're again with the clinic, their women and children's department head is part of our planning process for this. And it's because so many women have called, have been through there, and they say, I'm not in a safe environment. Because they always ask you that. When you go to the doctor, right? Are you in any danger? And if she says yes, then what do they do? Because there's nowhere to send anybody. All the shelters are full, and so the agencies will know about that. Yeah. So I don't think we'll lack clients at all. In fact, I hesitate to say this, but one day I may be coming back saying we're opening a second facility. Did you hear that? Yeah. So the need is huge. Yeah. Thank you so much for all your support since the day you opened. I remember meeting you very early on. Thank you everyone, and Martha and Cindy and Terry for all of your support and the congregation. Stay tuned for great news from us.